The Vedic Age. It is believed that the Vedas are innate and eternal, but the scholars fix the Vedic age from 1500 to 500 BC. This period, in fact, is a benchmark in the Indian history that was ruled by the Aryans. These Vedas contain 4 parts, namely Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. It is believed that Guru Vaishya partitioned them into these 4 categories. Let us see the early Vedic period or the Rigveda. Rigveda is a collection of hymns which provide insights into the various aspects of early Indian society, that is, its economy, social setup, political and religious life, and the metaphysical beliefs. The geographical area referred to in Rigveda includes those drained by the western tributaries of the Indus. The eastern limit was found by the river Yamuna and river Ganga. This area was perhaps the center of a variety of cultures. The Rigveda is by far the most ancient of the Vedic texts preserved, and it retains many common Indo-Iranian elements, that is, both in language and in its content. Its creation must have taken place over several centuries. The same would have been completed by 1000 BC archaeologically, and this period may correspond with the culture of the Punjab and the further east. However, there is no widely accepted archaeological or linguistic evidence of a direct cultural continuity from the Indus Valley civilization. Origin of Aryans. It was believed that the Aryans from the West Asia invaded and destroyed the earlier Harappan civilization and created a new Indian civilization. But this theory is not found to be correct in view of the recent excavations in Haryana and Jammu. Instead, historians have tended to believe that the Aryans migrated in a gradual manner and they became a part of the existing society of the early India itself. Of course, they created a deep influence in the lifestyles of the local population. The Aryans also migrated to Europe and others to East. The scholars have found similarities between languages used in Rigveda and Avesta, that is the oldest Iranian texts. Religion happens to be one of the main aspects in this period. Rigvedic people venerated or respected the natural forces around them like wind, water and air, which they could not control. They attribute divinity in human forms, which were mostly masculine. Very few female deities were venerated. Indra, the god of strength, who was invoked to destroy enemies. He was a god of thunder, rain, and could not be vanquished at all. Similarly, Agni was considered an intermediary between heaven and earth. Marriages were solemnized in his presence. The purifying nature of fire was symbolized by Agni. Varuna was personified with water. Yama was the god of death and had an important place in the early Vedic religious beliefs. The Vedic religion was sacrificial, where animal sacrifice was rampant. It was one way to dispose of older animals which were not economically useful. Gods were neither worshipped for spiritual upliftment nor for any other philosophical concept. Thus the Vedic religion reflected the pastoral society and in fact was materialistic in its total perspective. The later periods following Rigveda are interesting. These periods are Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. This Vedic period of Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda extends roughly from 1000 BC to 600 BC. The Samaveda or Samhita is a book of prayers and chants which are from the Rigveda, modified and set to tune for the explicit purpose of singing them during rituals. The Yajurveda elaborates the rituals which accompany the recitations of the hymns. The rituals and the hymns in this Samhita document the social and political life of this period. The Atharvaveda contains the folk tradition of this period and represents a popular religion. It is a good source for understanding the socio-religious conditions of the common people existing then. These Samhitas are followed by Brahmanas. They explain the social and religious aspects of the rituals and throw light on the Vedic society. Besides, we have the earliest Aranyavakas and Upanishads as well. One of the most important aspects of life during this period is the economic conditions. Let us see the state of economy during these periods. Grazing of cattle or pastoralism was the main occupation of people in the earlier times, that is the ancient times in India. But the availability of vast tracts of fertile alluvial lands of the Ganga-Yamuna belt and the middle Ganga valley slowly gave rise to new way of economic activity and also attendant lifestyle. Agricultural activity became prominent. A fairly wide variety of crops is attested in both the literary and the archaeological records that we have obtained. Yava or barley continued to be important, but the new grain, that is vrihi or the rice, became important as the staple diet of the people. Further, pulses such as moong and urad, also millets and sesame seeds, also the sugarcane appeared in this agricultural scene during the period. Therefore, mixed farming, which included cultivation and herding, was the occupational norm of this period. Other crafts such as leather working, pottery, carpentry, construction, and all the manufacture of jewelry were also practiced during the period. It is said the manufacture of glass was also known during this period. Weaving was still practiced by women only within the household. There seems to have been some development of trade, and there are explicit references to the sea during the period. Further, apart from the cattle serving as a medium of exchange, that is a barter, there are frequent references to the niska, that is a gold ornament, and it possibly represents a fixed weight of metal. This later gave rise to coinage system in the 6th century BC. Now let us take a look at the socio-cultural developments in brief. References to town and nagaras is frequent in the Vedic literature. They may have been political centers rather than centers for the manufacture of crafts. They also point to a growing socio-economic differentiation. The archaeological records also yield evidences of the beginning of urbanization from sites such as Ahichatra, Kausambi, and Hastinapur. There are indications that the Varna hierarchy increasingly became important. Now, what is this Varna system? Considerable stretch has been laid on the cooperation between the Brahmins and the Rajanyas. They both had to cooperate to ensure a proper order in the society. This employed the subordination of Vaishyas and Shudras to the Rajas and the Brahmana on the one hand, and on the other, subordination of Rajana in turn to the Brahmanas. Simultaneously, Vaishyas in its turn also had a differentiation among themselves with the growth of settled agriculture. The more prosperous households probably became Vaishyas. The poorer members of the Vaishyas were degraded into Shudras. The Varna system therefore got further tied up with the concept of dharma, that was to establish a systematic functioning of the society. However, the Varna dharma system was not properly developed in the Vedic society. One aspect has been very clear, that is, there have been clear indications that the women folks were being increasingly subordinated during this period. Now let us take a look at the religious practices that were practiced during the period. The institution of Gotra appeared during this period. There developed a full-fledged system of Gotra exogamy, that is marriage outside the Gotra, signifying widening socio-political ties. Gotra signified a descent from a common ancestor, and marriages could not take place between couples belonging to the same Gotra. During this period, 3 ashramas, that is stages of life, were prescribed, and these stages were represented by brahmacharya, that is a studentship. Second is grahastha, this is a householder, and third was vanaprastha, that is a partial retirement from the household life by living in the forest. The 4th stage of life was also recognized, that is sannyasa, or complete retirement from active participation in the worldly affairs, and that was first mentioned in the Upanishads. Education, which began with an investiture ceremony, Upanayana, was the prerogative of the upper classes only, and the nature of conflicts within the tribe also changed during the period. Fights were no longer mere skirmishes over the cattle. The acquisition of land became an important element in these disputes. The growth of population within the tribe provided the necessary impetus for acquiring more territory. Sacrifices became very important during this period. The early Vedic gods, who represented the natural phenomena, were slowly discarded. The personification of natural elements as divine beings became very complex. Prajapati, that is the creator, became important since the creation myths are important in the agrarian people or the society. Rudra, the minor deity in Rigveda, became important, and Vishnu was conceived as the preserver and the protector of people. Pushan, who protected cattle in the early Vedic period, now became the god of Shudras. The Atharvaveda contains details of widely prevaled witchcraft, spells, and magical rites, which were used to invoke the gods of Vedic tradition. The reasons for invoking them were trivial and individualistic. The doctrines of karma, maya, transmigration, identifying of individual soul with the universal soul, and mukti, all these concepts emerged during this period. They laid the foundations of different systems elaborated by later writers. In due course time, they were accepted as the main tenets of Hinduism. These concepts and practices find their expressions in the Upanishads, which came up at the end of this Vedic period. Now let us summarize by enunciating important points to remember. Vedic is supposed to be between 1500 BC to 500 BC. 4 Vedas, namely Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvaveda, describe the life and evolution of people. Vedas in general are basically collection of hymns. Aryans migrated from West Asia slowly and influenced the post-Harappan civilization of India. The nature of economy changed from pastoralism to nomadic to agriculture. All types of food grains and other crops were grown. People venerated the natural forces initially, such as fire, air and water. The same were personified, and they were attributed with the powers of life, destruction, maintenance, etc. And therefore the concepts of God, worshipping and sacrifices thus emerged in the later period. Varna system, that is Brahmins, Vaishyas, Shudras and Kshatriyas, developed during this period, and they divided the society. Gotra system of marriages and ashrama system for leading life were also defined for establishing an orderly society. Economy of the society developed from a pure agrarian economy to the related activities, which included trading, weaving, artisans, etc. The coin system also emerged from the bartering system.